So let's set this up. They will eventually have a discussion about who's under more pressure to win a Super Bowl, Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen. This is a conversation that is redone a million times over throughout the season, but they've done it in light of the schedule release. Okay. So my 2 cents real quick. I feel like they're both under the almost exact same of pressure. They both have MVPs. They both have made it to the AFC Championship game. They both keep it knocked out by Pat Mahomes. To me, they're under the exact same pressure. However, they're doing this in light of the schedule. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this piece by piece. The first 2 clips are just a minute each. They bring up the Ravens schedule and react to it. And their jaws are practically on the floor looking at the Ravens' first 6 weeks.
I want y'all at home to just look early on. Ravens have some difficulty. Week 1, week 3, week 4, week 5, week 6. It is not easy. Bills, Lions, Chiefs, Texans, Rams, playoff team, playoff team, playoff team, playoff team, playoff team. Bye week, exhale, woosah. It starts very difficult. Then after the bye week,
oh my God,
you got some time.
They got some time.
Hey, very quickly, let's just hypothesize for a moment. Chase, to the bye week, Rams record.
4-2. I think 4-2 is a good record for them to have.
To the bye, James.
If they start 4-2, they got the number 1 seed.
I think it's 3-3 at best.
Oh, at best.
And it's not because
that's
the Ravens lack
crazy.
Remember, y'all, the Ravens play with their food.
Yeah.
Very early on. What I mean by that, the Ravens lose games early just because they be jogging. They go through the motions.
That is not true.
Okay. It was true last year.
Not because they were jogging, Bobby. They for sure lost their future. This is not the Cincinnati Bengals who come out year after year unprepared. The reason why they came out and lost last year is they first went against the Chiefs, who went on to win the AFC Championship game again and won the Super Bowl. And then it was because they had 3 new starters along the offensive line, and they had a brand new defensive coordinator and a lot of turnover on defense. They lost their interceptions leader on defense, and they lost their sack leader on defense. So it took them a minute to reload for sure. So it's true that they lost early last year, which is a massive goal for them to start hot from the beginning, which they're much more prepared to do this time around because they had fewer losses. But it wasn't because they were jogging. It's not because they were playing with their food.
Agreed. You take the jogging out. Obviously, they scuffled. They scuffled because of all the reasons that you just outlined.
Yes. Okay. So we're on the same page. Here we go.
Ball needs to be like, man, listen.
Don't mess.
We all in before this bye week because we see what's after this bye week. If we can handle business and really even come out of this thing 5-1 or something, we put ourselves in a great situation for that number 1 seed, knowing what's after the bye week.
Okay, so let's go to their question. We'll answer it too. Okay, just as a reminder, he just went. Acho laid it out great. He's like playoff team, playoff team, playoff team. You know, here are the quarterbacks that they'll be facing: Josh Allen coming off his MVP. Browns, we don't know who the quarterback's going to be, but we know the defense. Jared Goff, Patrick Mahomes, C.J. Stroud, and Matt Stafford. That is a gauntlet just of playoff teams and franchise quarterbacks. So we heard Chase say 4-2. Emmanuel Acho said 3-3. I can't remember what we said opening night when this was first hitting us. What do you think?
I definitely think it's a gauntlet, those first 6 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely think what James Jones floated out there is entirely possible. If you go 4-2 over those 6 weeks, over that span to begin the season, you got a pretty darn good chance of running the table post-bye week. I'm not saying going undefeated post-bye week, but being in a pretty darn good situation to compete for the top overall seed. But again, it's hard to just completely overlook week 7, take out the bye. So weeks 8 through 18. It's hard to overlook Minnesota. It's hard to overlook a divisional opponents and how much it's backloaded towards the back end. It's hard to overlook the Green Bay Packers in that kind of climate in December. So 4-2 would be tremendous, but they would in no way be out of the woods.
Right. And I'll also say this. 4-2 sounds, I mean, honestly, if you came out of it with 4-2, you should be happy. or satisfied or feeling good about the way the season could set up, because that's worse than a playoff gauntlet right there. You don't have to play that many playoff teams when you make the playoffs, right? If you're a wild card team, you're playing 4 playoff teams if you're a wild card to make it all the way to the Super Bowl. This is 6 of them. Okay. So, I mean, that is a crazy playoff stretch right there. And if you did come out 4-2, that'd be all right. Now, if they did come out 3-3, which is what Emmanuel kind of put out there, and then James Jones was like, yeah, that's not crazy, you're still set up in a decent spot at 3-3, but you do have to go on a bit of a run after that.
You do.
So,
and that run can happen, as we discussed. That middle part, the meat part, it's not meaty, but the middle portion of this schedule this upcoming season, to me, is that area where, what did we say? You got to rip off 6 or 7 wins over an 8-week stretch. And I think I referred to it as maybe Chicago through, so it would have been week 8 through whatever it was.
it's just that those are on the road, but yes. Probably 8 to 12.
It's just like, I guess, yeah, it's 8 through 12. If you can rip off.
But 3 of those are on the road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The one that.
Still,
the
but
one
the opponents themselves are all winnable for sure.
The one that concerns you the most, though, is probably at Minnesota. Kevin O'Connell's one of the up-and-coming coaches. We don't know what J.J. McCarthy is, but they haven't changed all that much structurally than they did last year. And Sam Darnold was much more than a game manager for them at times last year, and that's why they ultimately, turned themselves around and got to the postseason after the Kirk Cousins era. But that one would be the one that I'd circle the most as the least definite. Let's say that the least definite W on the road would be within that stretch would be week 10 at Minnesota.
All right, so let's move on to them reacting to the Bills schedule, which will set up this debate about Lamar and Allen. But boy, oh boy, is it very different from the Ravens.
Much more favorable.
Oh my!
Yeah, that's like
they have the easiest schedule.
How?
It's the easiest strength of schedule in football.
It's the easiest.
Ninth easiest strength of
How
schedule.
is
it looks like the easiest.
It looks like the easiest.
It looks like the easiest.
I refuse to believe this is the 9th easiest schedule. This has to be the easiest schedule.
4 of the first 5 are
This has to be the
at
easiest
home.
schedule.
What?
Let's overlook the Ravens.
Gosh.
You get to play Justin Fields. You get to play Tua Tagovailoa. I say get to at this junction in time because there's a lot going on there. You get to play Tyler Shuck or Spencer Rattler. You get to play Drake May. Wow. You get to play Michael Penix. Don't have to. You get to. You get to play Bryce Young. Then you have to play.
The quarterbacks
you have to play Patrick Mahomes.
They should be 6-0. If they beat Baltimore, they should be 6-0
If they beat Baltimore, yeah.
But here's another thing too. Like
Buffalo should win the division. Not the division. Buffalo should win the conference.
Thank you.
Buffalo should win
conference.
This has to be Josh's
What about them
year,
Chiefs?
man.
Buffalo should win the conference.
No. It ain't about the Chiefs. It's about the schedule.
Yeah.
Okay, so they both have those week 7 buys. So, I mean, my goodness, but is their first 6 weeks completely different to their
There's
point?
the cakewalk. Buffalo's a complete cakewalk, and they're going to be in a position to absolutely control the narrative when it comes to AFC seeding. I mean, if they stay healthy, it's hard not to think that. And the Ravens are going to have, and what this really does, Sarah, is put a tremendous amount of pressure on the Ravens to have a very successful opening month plus on the season. But that 6-week span, you can't dig yourself a hole.
Yeah.
You almost have to be darn near perfect over those 6 weeks to set yourself up have the same bye, to your point. And then after that, look, we all know the AFC East and the AFC North, completely different divisions in terms of competition. And the fact that they are both backloaded with those teams in division towards the back end, there's a difference between that. The AFC East is a cakewalk. The AFC North is a gauntlet.
Yeah.
And it has been all throughout the Lamar era.
It's almost just like, and nobody's out to get the Ravens, but when the Bengals are comparing about unfair stuff, like, it's like, how awesome is it to be in the AFC East? I mean, this was an AFC championship team. They won their division. So I'll say this, though, before we move on to the next part of their debate. When the Bills and Ravens both hit week 7 and they both hit their buys, if the Ravens were 3-3 and these guys were like, 5-1, you still got to keep perspective, because after their bye, they're going to have KC. The Ravens will have already played KC. They're going to have some of the AFC North teams like the Bengals and the Steelers. The Ravens will have already played them. The Buccaneers, who are a playoff team in the NFC. And then they're going to have the Super Bowl champs in week 17 against the Eagles. And so when we hit the bye, again, if the Ravens end up 4-2, 5-1, something like that, it's on coming out of that. But if they're 3-3 and these guys are 5-1, you got to be patient because this is how schedules go. Their first 6 weeks, cakewalk minus the Ravens. But then it gets tougher afterwards. Still overall, nowhere near as hard as the Ravens. So given this backdrop of them having the 8th easiest schedule, which they're refusing to believe, they feel like it's the easiest, although I'm telling you, the 49ers is for sure the easiest. But obviously Bill's up there. Okay. Given these schedules, who is under more pressure to win a Super Bowl, Lamar or Josh Allen? These guys react.
Josh Allen. Don't get distracted for a moment. Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen. Who needs it more this year, man? Who needs it more? Who needs that Super Bowl more?
I was about to say Lamar. I was about to say Lamar.
You saw the schedule?
But with that schedule, it has to be Josh. This is Josh's clearest path to the number 1 seed.
Yeah.
And you get these teams, you to come through Buffalo, and you have to win 2 games to get to the Super Bowl. And Josh Allen at home in the cold is really, really good. And it really don't matter who comes in that building. This is Josh Allen's year.
I got to agree with James. I want to go as far as say, let me look at the camera too. I got to get this on record. I want to go as far as to say, with this schedule, Josh Allen should be able to have repeat MVP caliber numbers. And 5 of the Bills' first 8 games are against quarterbacks that are in their 4th year starting or younger. That's including Justin Fields, so realistically in their 3rd year starting or younger. 5 of the Bills' first 8 games, you get Penix, you get Drake May, you get Bryce Young, you get probably Tyler Shucker, Spencer Rattler, you get Justin Fields. Buffalo Bills, this has to be. Can you show that again?
But if you're talking just overall, forget about the schedule for a second. It's Lamar Jackson. And the question is, who can get past Patrick Mahomes? Because none of them seem like they can, right? And if you look at what Lamar's done, right, the 2 MVPs versus Josh's 1. Josh has been to 2 AFC championship games. Lamar's only been to 1, 2023, when they were the 1 seed. So we're talking about the Chiefs here, or the Bills here, the 1 seed. The Chiefs still went on the road and beat them, right? And you look at the weapons that he has. Lamar's 3-5 in the playoffs at the end of the day. And he's had some real clunkers in there, too. He's 10 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. 7 interceptions in 8 playoff games. And you go to Josh Allen, he's 7-6, but Josh is 25 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. He's averaging 270 yards a game in the playoffs. Josh Allen is like that. We know it. Like, Josh does not need a Super Bowl more than Lamar right now.
What does that mean?
Yeah.
Because it ain't got him nothing.
2 AFC championship games.
Got him the same thing, Lamar. Yeah. Not to a Super Bowl.
And he's run into Pat both times to not get to the Super Bowl.
We put a lot of pressure on Lamar because of these 2 MVPs and all that type stuff and because of the struggles in the playoffs. But both of them ain't been to this game.
Yeah, you're right.
If this was Lamar Jackson's schedule.
Pressure.
Come on, man.
Pressure.
All right. So Emmanuel, Acho, and James Jones saying that more pressure is on Allen because it's set up for him. How do you blow this, Josh? You've got what they are deeming one of the easiest schedules in all of football. And if you should for sure get the number 1 seed in the AFC, according to them. And then if you do that, you got 2 home games and then you're to the Super Bowl. So they're saying, coming off of an MVP with that schedule, he cannot blow it. Chase saying, well, it's still Lamar because he's been worse in the playoffs. James comes back and says, well, but neither one of them gotten past Patrick Mahomes. So to me, it's equal pressure to me. They both are MVPs. They both keep losing to Pat Mahomes. But if you're going to bring the schedule into it, yeah, Josh Allen can't blow this opportunity.
All right, here's where I'm at. I think there's 2 different debates.
Okay.
I think you and I are actually in agreement on one of them. 2 different debates. One is about the schedule, meaning the here and now and the present, right? Not the overall body of work in terms of being draft classmates. 2018, this is both their 8th NFL seasons coming up for both these guys. If it's the schedule, I agree with James Jones and Emmanuel for reasons that we just outlined. How can you not? It's a cakewalk in terms of last year's strength of schedule, in terms of opponents, in terms of the way that it is set up for Buffalo. And as the reigning MVP that comes with that, Lamar's lived that life now for 2 different seasons following his MVP seasons. If it's the overall body of work, given Lamar's difficulties, even though he is on the upward trajectory in the postseason, given what he claimed and promised on draft night to Deion Sanders, they're going to get a Super Bowl out of me, I would say that Lamar is under the most pressure right now. So to me, that's two different debates. One, it's the here and now. And the second one is the overall body of work when you look at the career trajectory and where they are right now. Is that fair? Where are you at with that?
I go back to saying that's equal. Like,
Okay.
Lamar did say he'd get Super Bowls. I'm sure Josh Allen maybe didn't say it Super Bowl or draft night, but I'm sure Josh Allen has talked about Super Bowl, wanting to bring Super Bowls and rings and trophies to Buffalo.
Okay.
I'd have to go out and find it, but I'd be shocked if he's never mentioned winning a Super Bowl ever. You know what I mean?
I'm sure he has at
Right.
some point.
And so at the end of the day, I'm with James Jones. They both keep getting knocked out by Patrick Mahomes. They're both MVPs. They've both had, home field advantage before. So to me, it's equal. And that's not even like a cop-out. Like, I just think it's equal. They both keep falling to Patrick Mahomes.
That's fine. The one knock on Lamar is that Josh, for the second debate in my mind, the way that I've paired this up, is that Josh has been the far more consistent, productive player in January. And I think that's ultimately, for the second debate, what knocks Lamar. He's got to prove continually that he's on we both believe that he's on this upward trajectory in the month of January, and we expect that to continue this year. He's got to go do it. That's where I'm at.
That's why Chase said that Lamar has 10 touchdowns to 7 interceptions in the playoffs, and Josh Allen has 25-4. And I hear you on that. The problem is like where you start bringing in context is it's like, well, what happens if Mark Andrews catches the 2-point conversion in Buffalo, right? And it's like, what happens? You know what I mean? It's like all this stuff. And so at the end of the day, if you don't have all that context, at the end of the day, neither one of them are getting over the hump to the Super Bowl. And the conversation is about getting to the Super Bowl. Neither one have done it.
I'll even give you a second piece of context there.
Okay.
The Zay Flowers fumble.
Sure.
So there is always context necessary. He hasn't been able to overcome that context.
Right. So either we bring in all the context or we leave it all aside. And if you leave it all aside, neither one of them has gotten to the Super Bowl. They're both under the same pressure.
I think you can still either aside or bring it in. I'll still stick to my guns here with the two different debates. We're in agreement on when it comes to this year and the here and now.
Schedule.
The overall body of work, you're thinking it's even. I'm thinking right now it's in favor of, from a pressure standpoint, Lamar over Josh. It's close. I'm not saying it's like out of this world, different ballparks, but that's the way that I view that conversation from a two debate lens.
One more thing within the MVP conversation, because they were all talking about Super Bowl, but underlining here, just knowing, because we had Emmanuel Acho on the show and we had the big debate with him on MVP. He didn't say this part of it, but he was mostly in agreement with Dan Orlovsky. I specifically remember Dan Orlovsky after Josh Allen and the Bills beat the Chiefs. Dan Orlovsky tweeted MVP race is over. And there was like 4 weeks left, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And so and then in the clip we played yesterday, Dan Orlovsky said, yes, Lamar was the best, but I had to consider who he did it against and who he did it with.
Yeah.
Emmanuel Acho right here is saying this is an easy ride. He's assuming he gets another MVP vote this year. It changes year to year, but assuming he gets another vote, and I know that he was with Dan Orlovsky, stuck up for him when Foxworth made fun of him live on air for his trying to split the baby and semantics game. If it matters who you do it against, even if Josh Allen has a few better stats, don't forget who they're doing it against when it comes to the MVP race. Now, hey, maybe it'll be that they don't have the numbers and somebody else is better MVP. But if it's close again, let's not forget who they're doing it against, specifically just for these MVP voters, not for the other ones. I want you to stay consistent. So these 7 that split the baby and said Lamar was the best, but gave Josh Allen the MVP, and part of your reasoning was who you did it against, let's remember the schedule. May
16th, 2025. Just making future notes for you, partner, to go back in the future, in maybe January or February when the race is on and voting is revealed. We'll cut back to these clips for you so you can have your ammo. And there you go. The 16th of May. You heard it here first.
We got it. Also, real quick, what will help Lamar and the Ravens win against the Bills and will help Lamar against Allen in the MVP race, if it comes to them again, is a little while back. We know that Stark said he wants the quarterback he most wants to intercept is Josh Allen. Let's get that going on. ESPN's Jordan Reed had one of his bold predictions of 2025. He said that Malachi Starks will lead the NFL in interceptions this season. Not rookies, not lead all rookies, but lead the NFL. Starks a little while back, as transcribed by the Ravens realm, he quoted Starks talking about learning from Lamar Jackson. He says, I think it's an awesome opportunity just to be able to learn from him. A lot of people think when you play defense, you just learn from the defensive players on your side, but you also learn from the offense as well. Just being able to pick his brain and to see how he thinks, his progressions, he says will help. So Malachi Starks, get your QBs back and make this come to fruition from Jordan Reed.
He ingratiated himself with, I think, this entire fan base when he made that quote on ESPN. It was like a 10-minute segment. I just so happened to be watching it live that day on SportsCenter. And from there on, you already know, bunch of eyeballs going to be on number 24 come September. What did we say it was? Bills Ravens will be the 7th. Is that correct? I think September 7th will be Sunday Night Football in Buffalo. So